There's a group of 3 statues in the gardens of the Musee Rodin in Paris that stopped me in my tracks. They are all versions of a figure known as Pierre de Wissant, one of the Burghers of Calais. The earliest is from 1886 and is a preliminary nude version that Rodin subsequently altered and developed, changing the position of the hand. Then there is the clothed version from the following year, which is almost identical to the version used in the Burghers. However, there is also a third, nude version, made after the Calais commission was complete, and this is the one that shocked me. Rodin recast the figure, but without hands and head. These are not just absent, they have been hacked off, and the breaks are crude and raw. Seeing the completed figure there in front of me, I struggled not to see Rodin's alterations as mutilations. The changes looked like a violent defacement, literal and metaphorical. This was a real stumbling block. I couldn't understand why someone, having made the complete figure, would go back and lop off bits of it. Was Rodin dissatisfied with what he had done? Surely he wouldn't have let the Burghers go if he didn't think that the lead figure was good enough. What could he have been thinking to have decided that this was an improvement on the whole figure? He might have been thinking about classical sculpture. Although the Greeks and Romans carved complete bodies, arms and heads and legs have often been broken off and lost over the centuries, and we have come to like them that way. If someone found and reattached the Venus de Milo's arms, I suspect many people would be disappointed. So, by fragmenting the figure, Rodin made a claim about the value of his own work, challenging viewers to look at modern and classical sculpture in the same way. However, as an artist, Rodin was not particularly interested in intellectual point scoring. So while the allusion to classical sculpture might be true, it's probably insufficient as an explanation for Rodin's action. I didn't know what to think. So I just looked at the sculpture to see if it suggested anything. On hearing that the poet Rilke was struggling to write, Rodin once suggested that he go and look at something and just keep looking at it until he could make a poem out of it. Rilke probably didn't find this advice very helpful, but I wasn't trying to write a poem, and Rodin's advice fitted my situation. After a while, I began to realise that the body of this figure, although the same as that of the whole figures, affected me differently. The whole figures are easy to read expressively. When you look at them, you know how they feel. And the reason you know this is because of the face and hands. They are large, and they signify de Wissant's internal torment unambiguously. When head and hands are removed, the internal state of the figure is much harder to read. It's not that the body without head and hands means nothing, but that it requires more work from the viewer. You have to look at the chest, the belly, the back, the shoulders, and so on. Paradoxically, in its fragmented state, I had to consider the whole body, whereas in the more finished versions, I had inferred a lot, an awful lot, from the hands and face, and so didn't look at the body itself nearly as attentively. I'm not by any means the first to have discovered this about Rodin. I come at the end of a long line of viewers, but when eventually I did see it, I felt I had been taught a valuable lesson about sculpture. That wholeness can be communicated through a fragment, sometimes more effectively than through a completed sculpture. That expressiveness, as opposed to the signs of an emotion, requires attention to the whole object, and that ambiguity allows for a greater aesthetic and psychological depth. The disfigured sculpture turned out to be the most moving. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and visit my channel, Think of a Picture, where you'll find lots more short, thought-provoking videos about art. Thank you.